So how did I quit video games?
We had been playing all night long, and we were stuck on this one mission. And then now finally it's like 4 o'clock in the morning. And the time just melts by when you're playing these types of games. Do you understand? It was like it seemed like just an hour ago. It was like 5 o'clock at night. I was just like, I can't do this.
Don't get me wrong, I still play video games. Gaming has influenced my life in a huge way. I love video games. I'll probably always play video games.
I missed completely out on the PS3. And here we are at the PS4. The PS4 is reeling me back in.
There are a lot of guys performing these monologues, explaining to you how they quit video games on YouTube. But if you actually listen to the whole monologue, they didn't quit video games. They say things, maybe at the beginning, maybe at the end, maybe peppered in between, that indicate they're still playing video games. They're always going to play video games. So what's the point of this monologue? What's this milestone or this, new moral attitude to life you gain if you're still playing video games?
I used to have a very substantial video game collection. And I moved in with a girl, and we lived together for about 3 years, and we fought like cats and dogs. What do couples fight about? The laundry, who's doing the dishes, or who's taking out the garbage. Me and my girlfriend got into a huge argument one day, and the following day I went to work, and when I got home, I went downstairs to my lair, and everything was gone. I freaked out. I mean, I know you guys have video game collections, and I've seen them online, and just imagine for a second, if you came home and all your stuff was gone. I mean, gone. I mean, the shelves gone. Everything was gone. So my girlfriend got home, and I confronted her about it, and she said she took all of it and she chucked it in a dumpster. And when I asked her where she threw it out, she wouldn't tell me. And I belted her in the face. And with the kind of luck I have, I wound up breaking her jaw and went to jail for about 1.5 years for it. And while I was in jail, when I wasn't eating, sleeping, or getting, I was in the library on a computer, and I was watching I would watch game review channels on YouTube. That's what I would do. And I said, this is great. I said, a lot of these guys have impressive stuff, and I said, this is something I feel I can do. This is something that I'm passionate about. And that was my thing. I said, when I get out, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make this happen.
I'd like to start with a few comments that I saw on my previous video where I mentioned video games. A couple of the comments were, I don't know about you, I enjoyed gaming as a kid. Another one was, it's not wasted time if you enjoy it. And I did enjoy playing sometimes. You see, I do enjoy gaming. I enjoy gaming a lot. I enjoyed gaming so much that even when I didn't enjoy gaming, I would play games. And maybe that tells you something. Gaming made me realize there was an inherent disconnect with myself, with who I thought I was or who I thought I could be. Specifically, there was a large difference in how I talk to people online in video games and how I talk to people in person. Online, I was bubbly and outgoing, and I was emoji. I don't know if that's an adjective anymore, but I would always send lots of happy faces, and I don't even text with emojis, but for some reason in online games, I'm this totally different kind of outgoing person that I'm not in real life. Whenever we would make jokes in the chat, I would always know exactly what to type, but if you were to come at me in person in like a rap battle, I'd have like no idea what to say. I'm terrible at thinking on my feet in person, but I can think on my keyboard if that's a thing. I would play games to avoid starting something, like a passion project. I would play games just to get that feeling of progression. I would play games just to pass the time. I would play games just because peer pressure and all my friends were on and they wanted me to come on, so
And I got the Xbox because all my friends were playing Ghost Recon. And I remember them telling me, "Oh, this is so cool. You know, we go out in groups or whatever, and we all play together. We all log on." They talked me into it, and I remember playing with my buddy Frank one night, and we're doing missions together. And I remember we got stuck on this one mission. It was really hard. It was like Frank had to run ahead to a spot. I had to give him cover fire. And then I would run up to the spot, and he would cover me with fire. And it was like this really difficult part of the game. And we had been playing all night long, and we were stuck on this one mission. And then now finally it's like 4 o'clock in the morning. And the time just melts by when you're playing these types of games. Do you understand? It was like it seemed like just an hour ago it was like 5 o'clock at night. And now it's 4 o'clock in the morning. Oh yeah. And I remember just like being like, I didn't want to stop playing, but I was like, I gotta get to bed. I probably had work the next day. I was like, I gotta get to bed. This is ridiculous.
Gaming has influenced my life in a huge way. I love video games. I'll probably always play video games. All that space I have up here memorized for raid bosses and different talent specs and all this stuff that got outdated continuously. Like, why didn't I use that space for something that I could carry on with, like a language or something? There's so much space up here that I used for WoW and video game tactics that I can't actually use anywhere else. So how did I quit video games? I was working my dev job, and then they let everyone go, and I lost that job. Looking back on it, I was kind of forced into not having to focus on video games anymore. When you're watching the world around you kind of fall apart, a loss in rank doesn't mean anything when you're about to lose your car. A level up in a video game doesn't mean anything when you have no idea where your dogs are going to live when you get kicked out. Are you going to put them back in the shelter? A new item in-game that gives you more power doesn't mean anything when you're just wondering how you're going to buy food next week. None of what I did in the video games mattered.
Paul Bashir, the political leader in charge of Anonymous for the Voiceless. Paul Bashir, one of the few hit videos on his YouTube channel, is him allegedly talking about smoking marijuana. It's only 5 minutes long, that video. But if you really pay attention, he's telling you he does not plan to quit smoking marijuana. He's talking about how hard it is for him to just take a couple months off, take a break for a couple months. But he's not committed to sobriety. He's not committed to quitting marijuana. Quit means quit. There's a difference between pause and quit. You might think that video game addicts would be familiar with that, the difference between pausing and quitting. What we're talking about here is quitting, oh boy. But I think maybe on a deeper, more unconscious level, what they're doing in performing these monologues is playing a game. It is portraying a fictional character, maybe without realizing it. Maybe they're talking about hopes and aspirations. This other person, whether that's the person they depict on YouTube, or maybe a person they aspire to be. I had a friend from high school, and then I didn't talk to him for about 10 years. So let's say he and I were friends at 17, then we met again age 27. And he told me this story, and I was laughing and he wasn't. He told me this story about how, he'd been collecting comic books continuously from childhood through to 27 when we had this conversation. And the comic book collection, it took over his bedroom, the bedroom in his parents' house. And he had moved out and was living in an apartment, but this whole bedroom is full of comic books. And I don't know what the situation was, but he goes to this bed, so he's dropping things off and picking them up at his parents' house to keep this comic book collection going. And he's making love to his girlfriend at the time. He's a fully grown man with a girlfriend and a job and responsibilities and stuff. At age 27 or something, he's making love to his girlfriend, and his comic book collection literally collapses on his head. He's got so much weight on the upper floor of his bunk bed. He's got these boxes and boxes, and whatever several hundred pounds of paper and plastic, comes crashing down on the two of them while they're making love. And I'm laughing at him, and I say, okay, so what's the end of the story? Is this where you finally made the resolution to stop collecting comic books? And he looks at me stunned, like it never even occurred to him. He's like, oh, no. He just relocated the boxes to the basement or something. He came up with a new plan for how he can keep amassing comic books, keep spending his time and money doing this. But look, guys, Comic book collecting, I don't know anyone who has stories of staying awake until 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. reading comic books and then going to work the next morning completely exhausted. I don't know about that. I don't know about this kind of really negative impact in your life. And guys, if I had done that just once with anything, if I stayed up till 4 a.m. or 5 a.m., doesn't matter what the activity was, whether it's video games or comic books or otherwise, I'd be deeply ashamed of what I'd done that night and of the impact that was having on my life if I did that just once. And the nature of video game playing, not even video game addiction, just video game playing, is that people do this again and again and again. And these are grown men who keep making the excuses to do it again and again and again, even after they come on YouTube and give us these monologues telling us about how they quit, when what they really mean is they hit the pause button.
I'd say the thing that really put me... the end of my video game career to me is very sad. It was like towards the end I was just floundering. And it all started with... 64-bit. I blame it on 64 bits. When the Dreamcast came out, I remember me and Phil had gone to this game store. And we saw Power Stone. And we were just like, wow, what is this all about? And it was like, oh my God. But the idea of getting a Dreamcast at that time, we had no money, man. We just, at this point, we had no money. And what made me buy the Dreamcast, maybe I paid more than that for it, because I wanted Phantasy Star Online. This is like my glimmering hope. This was what was going to bring me back into gaming. I got Phantasy Star Online and a Dreamcast. And I remember taking it home and connecting it to the internet. Oh yeah. And remember, you would go to that hub world where everybody was running around? But what really sealed the deal for me is I remember I moved in with this girl, and I'm playing Phantasy Star Online, and I got the headset on, and I remember I think I was probably even like yelling to somebody or yelling at somebody or something like that. And I remember my girlfriend came home from work, and she comes through the door, and I'm like in bed in my pajamas, propped up, and I'm yelling, and I got the fucking headset on, and the joystick. I mean, the Dreamcast joystick was like this fucking like Whammo frisbee in your hand. And she walks through the door, and I'll never forget like the look of disappointment in her eyes. And I look at her, and I just had like this look of guilt on my face. Because it was like, here she comes home from a hard day's work. We're in this whole apartment thing together now. This is like the first time I ever moved out. And I was just like, I can't do this. In my mind, I can't do this. It was fun, but I was like, this shit doesn't fly. It just doesn't fly.
All the confidence and all of that, I'm a different person online, everyone enjoys me here. I couldn't take that into real life. Now I have to snap back into me. I'm this great player online, but in person I gotta snap back to not being whatever I wanted to be. You need to set yourself up in a life situation where video games doesn't matter. Everything else is more important, which can be hard to do if you're forced to do it yourself. Don't get me wrong, I still play video games.
Dun, 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 dun.